YouTube, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart for Vernon Speaks Sports here on the podcast. We're talking really briefly about SEC Media Days that is going to be taking place this coming Monday. Got a huge lineup, guys, of coaches, players who are going to be put on the spot and being asked the hard questions coming into the 2019 season. This thing is going to be taking place in Hoover, Alabama. Pretty much just about any media outlet that you can think of will be on the scene to get answers and do interviews with coaches and players and, really give the fans a breath of fresh air, because a lot of folks don't follow football, in the dead period, so to speak. But now these media days are here, and it just lets you know that college football is right around the corner. And when you talk about media days, this particular year, to kick things off, you got on Monday, you got Dan Mullen from Florida, Ed Orgeron from LSU, and then you got Barry Odom. Now, when you look at these three programs, Dan Mullen is attempting to turn some things around at Florida. Had an excellent season last year, finishing off with the big win over Michigan. One of the biggest question marks is going to be the offensive line for Florida, but they got a lot of great parts moving around them and could make some noise in the SEC East. Likewise with LSU, man, Ed Orgeron pulling the unthinkable last year. A lot of folks thought that this was going to be a highly rebuilding year for LSU. Man, they proved a lot of folks wrong with the big win over Auburn in Auburn. Kind of gave the blueprint defensively as to how to kind of manage Tua Tagovailoa. The best defensive effort against Alabama at that point in the season. Then Auburn played them pretty well in the first half, and Georgia, of course, pretty much manhandle, in my opinion, Alabama in the SEC championship, winning in every area except but the scoreboard. Then you talk about Barry Odom at Missouri coming up, really being productive up there at Missouri. Got Kelly Bryant coming up there out of Clemson, led Clemson to the college football playoff. Kelly Bryant has some experience against SEC competition, facing Auburn in Death Valley, also facing Alabama in the college football playoffs when he led his team there. Then on Tuesday, you really got, you really got a good lineup as well. You're talking Kirby Smart, Jeremy Pruitt, and Jimbo Fisher. Now, these guys are all, ironically, products, or at least have coached with Nick Saban. Kirby Smart was definitely a defensive coordinator with Nick Saban while he was at Alabama. Jeremy Pruitt as well. And also Jimbo Fisher, I believe, was with Nick Saban while he was down at LSU. So he has had, all of these guys have had some connection with Nick Saban. And all the guys have been, well, at least Kirby Smart and Texas A&M have been very successful as coaches. Matter of fact, Jimbo Fisher has a national championship. Kirby Smart with the appearance in a national championship game. So Tuesday, we could call Tuesday the Saban coaching tree day, because all those coaches were under Nick Saban at one time. Wednesday, we got the great Nick Saban, who will be making his appearance. Chad Morris from Arkansas, Joe Moorhead from Mississippi State. I think that's a big one. I really want to hear what Joe Moorhead has to say going into to year 2 at Mississippi State. Definitely a great campaign, but it's going to be really hard, in my opinion, to replace Nick Fitzgerald coming into next year. And, of course, Will Muschamp was still looking for that breakout year out at South Carolina. Huge deal for South Carolina as well. So, you got a lot of great things happening with this very exciting SEC Media Days. Then on Thursday, of course, you got Coach Gus Malzahn that has a lot of questions coming into this 2019 season. Well, for number one, we want to know how much improved will this offense be with the new quarterback. Of course, you got veterans on the offensive line. You're very deep at the wide receiver and running back position for the first time, I think, in the Gus Malzahn era. Also, you look at the skill player upgrades, I think, with it, at least within recent history, even with the quarterback, you're talking about a skill set that Gus Malzahn has not had since Nick Marshall. Also on the defensive side of the football field, you talk about huge return of Derrick Brown at the defensive line. You talk about although not experienced, but we want to believe that the linebacker position will be much more skilled this year to help cover the edge, something that Auburn has not been very good at here for the last few years. And you're talking about coaching changes with Wesley McGriff returning to help out with the secondary. Wesley McGriff's defenses have a secondary really played discipline back in 2016, helping to start the trend of better defense for Auburn under the Kevin Steele era for the Auburn Tigers. And, we would like to think that with this year, Auburn has the opportunity for the first time, in recent history to combine a very good offense, potent offense, with a very sound and possibly elite defense this year. Also, you got Mark Stoops in Kentucky. We want to see how Kentucky will bounce back from having such a great year last year. Will they be able to reload and make some noise in the SEC East again this year? And, of course, Derrick Mason, a mainstay at Vanderbilt Hill for the past few years, just can't get the recruits, guys. I mean, 56 recruiting rating is just hard to get guys to Vanderbilt. But one thing about Derrick Mason, he works well with what he has over there in Vanderbilt. Big shout out to Derrick Mason and the Vanderbilt Commodores. Now, Auburn will have, I'm not going to go over all the guys that are going to be going from each particular school, but Auburn will have as their players who are going to be representing. Auburn has Derrick Brown, Marlon Davidson, and Prince Tega Wanagho. I think it was a very good decision to send those guys. Derrick Brown and Marlon Davidson, definitely big-time defensive linemen for the Auburn Tigers, have played in some of the bigger games here in recent history for the Tigers and have a lot of insight and experience as to how to address the media because they know they've been there. Also, with Prince Tega Wanagho, he definitely will be a great guy to reference because, he was on that offensive line last year that struggled. And he will be able to kind of articulate where this offense was last year and what Rodney Garner has done to put some things in place to help solidify more solid offensive play moving forward. Man, we really look forward to these media days. Always a great time. Always a great time to be an SEC fan. Definitely a great time to be an Auburn Tiger to get all this content that will be surfacing because of media days. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart for Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. Just want to remind you guys that media days start for the SEC start tomorrow. Like I said before, it's always great to be an Auburn Tiger on this channel. Until next time, War Eagle.